Hey y'all, BD checking in. So today we're going to fix the drive axles on the truck. You can either buy the rear and front axle separate, the rear being $17.99 in this case, or you can buy a kit from some of the sellers on eBay. I was eventually going to buy some more 17mm hex, so if we get another 3S vehicle, I've already got them. And it worked out much cheaper because it wasn't much more than what the rear axles were going to be. And so now I've got all the hex, all the hardware, the axle stubs, and I've got the drive axles in case something happened to one again. So that being said, if you get a complete kit with front and rear drive shafts, you want to make sure that you use the proper one on the front and the rear. When I say that is, there's a little bit of a difference between the front and rear drive shafts, but the easiest way to tell is the rear drive shafts have a small marking on them, 1 dot on the outside axle and 2 dots on the inside axle. So that's one way to know that that one's the rear, and the other way is the front is marked differently. It's got D on the inner part of the drive shaft and it's got A on the outer part of the drive shaft right there. So that's how you can tell the difference in the front and rear, by the markings on them. And then the inners are a little bit different as well. So first thing you want to do is put your wrench on the outside of the 17mm hex. So let's go ahead and get that adjusted. Try to get it in the picture there so y'all can see it. And then you want to take this black screw out of the center. I always use Loctite on these and let them sit for 24 hours. So we're going to do that when we put this one back in. We're going to put a little bit of Loctite on it, keep that screw from backing out. Now I use enclosed wheel nuts on them, so I don't use the open ones, so that screw can't really come out. But you know, if I happen to put the other ones on for some reason, or you know, I don't want it backing out at all, that's going to help with that. So we're going to set that screw out of the way. Then we take the black pin, push it out of the way. Push it out. Hold of it, so now that's out of the way. Then we're going to pull this out. It's going to leave the axle exposed. Now that we got that out of the way, we're going to remove our shock here. That way there's not tension on this while we're trying to work on it and it's pushing it down and everything else. So let's go ahead and remove the bottom screw of the shock. We'll compress it just a little bit so it's not pushing down on the screw. Okay, now we're going to take off the top screw that goes to the linkage up there. Okay. Now if that's taken out, we can slide this back piece out. That's got our bearing on it. Now we're going to take that bearing, remove it off of there. We're going to take our new axle stub. We're going to take our new outer drive shaft, put the bearing back on there, slide it back into place, do the other bearing. Actually came out, no problem, just squish them together. Put the drive shaft on. These got splines in them, so you just gotta line them up. There we go. So now those are lined up. our bearing in the front. We just gotta push it back in. Once you've got all that completed and the new axle put in, we just gotta reverse the process and put everything back together. So we're gonna hold this up here. We're gonna put our linkage together. And right here is more about when you take the suspension off, having that shock released, because when you do that, it's going to allow this much easier to work with. You're not having to fight against the pressure of the shock and having to wrestle with it and trying to align this hole at the same time, and also putting pressure on all the pieces and potentially causing you to strip out one of the screws. Got that screw in. We're going to go ahead and tighten it back up. If you get lucky and you don't lose your drive shaft, you don't have to go through replacing the stub and pulling all this stuff out. If you find your drive shaft, what you can do is basically this plastic piece down here I had showed in the other video had bowed out a little bit, and that caused the universal joint there to pop out. You can put that plastic piece in hot water and it'll heat it up to where you can flex it a little bit, and you can pull it apart just enough to put that knuckle in. Then you want to hold it back together as it cools down, and when it cools down, it's going to, you know, basically form to that position, and you know, most of the time it's going to hold together and not going to be an issue. However, you know, you are flexing the plastic out and back in, so that's not the best solution sometimes, because anytime you're heating up plastic, cooling it down, forming in and out, it can make that component more brittle. So you can do it that way. If you still have the other axle, you can pop that together. Unfortunately, mine was in that field out there, and I have no clue where it went after that. So I'm not gonna mess with it or be able to mess with it, or you know, I couldn't find it anyway, so it don't really matter. But so now we're gonna take our outside screw. We're gonna compress our shocks a little bit. Put our screw in. Install this back. And no matter what shocks I'm using, I like to compress them like that and hold the compression on it. That way it takes tension off the arms. You're not sitting there letting it push against the arm, as I mentioned. All these little things to do to keep it from stripping the screw out or having an issue with, you know, a screw messing up or anything like that. We almost got it screwed all the way down. When the screw's basically all the way in, you can let off the suspension. As I mentioned, I do it when I'm starting to tighten it down, because there's so much of the screw sticking out of the hole, it's going to be pushing it down and your screw's going to be at an angle. But once you get 3/4 of the way in, like I did with that one, you can release the suspension, and then, you know, I kept my stand from spinning around, which this does have screws to hold it, but we're already into the video, so I just kept going. Alright, so now that's taken care of. You want to pull out your axle like that, make sure that it's flush against the inner bearing, and all that's together. And then the outer one here, we're going to take our hex, put it on there, then grab our pin, stick the pin inside. Then I always turn it just a little bit, that way that pin's not straight up and down and has a tendency to fall out. If you turn it just like that, it's going to hold it in there while you're finishing up. So let's finish this up here. I had to run upstairs because I started this project and didn't grab my Loctite before I came down here. So just a small little dab on there. Put the screw in the new axle. And then to get this started, I just get it hold it with my hand and screw it down. So I'm just holding this with my finger. Get it started. Okay, then I'll put my wrench on the outside. I'll give it just a small turn. Okay, make that snug. So we're gonna finish up here and put the wheel nut on, and then we're good to go. We'll head back out and give these shocks another run and see what happens. So that's going to wrap up our install of the replacement drive shaft. Hopefully y'all found this video informative. If you did, push the like button for me. That would be greatly appreciated. And if you subscribe to the channel, it'll allow you to see the future videos. Thanks for watching, and I hope y'all have a great day. See you next time.